Richard and Gemma. Oh, you're there! Did you want to come join me on stage? Oh, you're coming up that way? Okay, you're braver than I am. I'll sit here. I don't mind.
It doesn't matter, does it? I'm not sure I'm going to need this either.
Thank you everybody for joining us. It's so amazing to see all these faces in the audience. So I'm nervous but very excited. This is the first time I'm doing this. I'm sure Richard and Gemma are more experienced than I am. So bear with me if I mess up at any point. So this session is all about clarity and enablement. So when you saw the triangle on the screen, those are 2 of our 8 neuroscience areas. So for those of you in the room that are customers, you know all about our neuroscience areas. And so I'm going to be asking Gemma and Richard just about their experience with both of those. Just realised I didn't introduce myself. So my name is Roma. I was one of the first employees at the Happiness Index. I've been here for 8 years. So a very long time, especially for my generation. Apparently we move around every 2 years, but that's a testament to how amazing the Happiness Index is. And I'm a Senior Customer Success Manager, so I've got some clients in here that I work with, and I will hand over to Gemma and Richard and let them introduce themselves.
Hi everybody. My voice normally isn't this low or this croaky, but when your team win 5-0 on Tuesday night, there aren't many, and 1 win away from promotion, there aren't many people that do have a voice in Leicester at the moment. So thank you so much for asking for us to be part of a panel. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Gemma, pronounce my surname Krasucka, and I'm the Head of Learning and Development at Leicester City Football Club. And it's a completely brilliant role to be able to influence people's lives every day and help them become a little bit better at what they do. That's it.
Hi everyone, I'm Richard. I'm the HR business partner at British Cycling. I'm saving my voice for about 95 days' time when the Olympics starts. Which is coming fast. It's my first role in sport. It's been fascinating. We'll probably get onto it a little bit. You know, I, like lots of people here, I knew British Cycling from the Great British Cycling team and what you see on the television, and then to come in and find an organisation that has such a vast reach and does so much sort of grassroots participation. Yeah, we're the FA and Man City combined is the best way I can describe it in terms of on-field and off-field, so lots to do, very busy, and can I say this is about as close to Quentin Tarantino as I'm ever going to get, and I'm very excited about this. Back to you, Roma.
Thank you so much. I feel like it's going to be really hard to follow up anything Richard says because he's so funny, and Gemma as well. So, first of all, it wouldn't be a THI event if I didn't ask what makes you happy.
Okay. So there's a couple of things, like Matt touched on it, Karen touched on it as well. So if we talk about work, we all spend an inordinate amount of time in our jobs. Me and everybody that I work with and all my colleagues. So, why do I do my job and what brings me happiness at work is around trying to create an environment where people come in every day, they want to be there, they feel part of, and that they have a voice, and that is not always successfully, but certainly what gives me pleasure in work. Outside of work, mountains. Generally the top of, I do a lot of mountain running, and I think for me, if I ever want to be reminded that I'm not quite as important as I think I am, the top of a mountain looking at what nature has done over 4.5 billion years is a pretty cool place just to be reminded of that. That's what makes me happy. And sheep, which you find on mountains. I love sheep. They're my spirit animal. I just think they're brilliant.
What do you say after that? I think aside from all the normal things, which I think we'd probably all share, maybe not sheep, but like family and friends, they create a lot of balance in my life and keep me grounded, which I think is really important. meaning in work is probably one of the things that the majority of people are looking for more and more now than ever. And purpose, why am I doing what I'm doing? How does it dial up into something bigger than me? That is something that genuinely makes me happy. When I'm a personal trainer in my spare time and spend a lot of time coaching people to move past barriers that they probably don't realise that they have. So when somebody comes up and tells you, completely unscripted, you've made a difference to my life and you have enabled me to feel better about what I do, there is no better feeling than that. You can't put a price on having somebody come up and tell you it's because of you that I'm now able to do this and I never thought I could. So genuinely that makes me happy.
That's amazing, I love that. And I know I'm not supposed to be talking that much and just asking questions, but that's actually why I joined the Happiness Index, because it's all about enabling people within their roles, making them happy, making them engaged, just changing their lives at work. You spend so much time at work, why would you not want to be happy? And, having that impact at THI is just incredible. I will move on to my questions now. So my first question is, what, in your experience, is the recipe for a high-performing team?
You can start this one, Jen. And just get back over forward.
Okay. I think 3 things, and then there's like little bullet points underneath each one. The first one is understanding. So understanding of a vision, understanding of a mission, something that is a shared vision that everybody can buy into. Understanding of each other, so who else is in your team. If you're in a team, it's not an individual sport, so you are having to rely on other people at times where maybe you probably might not want to or you need to. So understanding vision, mission and of each other. Awareness, number 2, this is for me personally, awareness of self. It's really hard, and I was saying this earlier, it's really hard to apply things to other people when you're not applying them yourself. So application to self first before application to others, particularly in a team, is really important. Because otherwise you just get found out and you end up looking at somebody in your team and thinking, well, why are you telling us to do all of this? Why are you asking us to work harder, smarter, leaner, when you're not willing to do it yourself? Awareness of strengths and opportunities. So awareness of what you bring to the table and feeling really comfortable in that. And I think particularly for women in sport, it can be really difficult, because primarily sometimes you might be the only one in the room. What you bring to the table and then what you don't, and actively try and find people that have skills where you don't. So understanding awareness and then willingness. If there is a lack of willingness to contribute, you'll never have a high-performing team if there's one person that isn't willing to pull their weight, or isn't willing to hold you accountable when you're not pulling your weight, because we won't be 100% every single day. So I think 3 things, and then there's a multitude of things under there: understanding, awareness and willingness for me.
What Gemma said. Okay. No, to echo a lot of that, I think, from where we are, a sort of crystal clear purpose, crystal clear objectives is really, really important. Our teams, particularly around the sport, they're locked in on what it is that they need to do. But I think underneath that, which is maybe a dichotomy, is that the ability to then pivot as well. Things can change very, very quickly, and what you think you might need to do might suddenly kind of just not. So being able to react very quickly, to really understand yourself, the work that you do, and what you need to change is really important. I think support from the broader organisation, every team needs that, the actual tools to be able to do the job. You could have and assemble a very high performing team, but if you're not giving them the right tools, if you're not actually supporting what it is they're trying to deliver, they're operating in a vacuum, and people will walk away from that. They will. And then on a human level, people who trust each other, who respect each other, as you said, Gem, that's so important. If you're you're reliant on each other to do a job and to do a job well. And as you talked about, not everybody's going to have a good day all of the time. And so to be able to support each other, to cover each other's strengths and weaknesses is massively, massively important.
Amazing. We chose our panellists well because they're echoing everything that our neuroscience model stands for. So that is amazing. Thank you. My next question is, clarity sounds simple, but I'm sure we all have experience of where it's gone well and not so well. Why is clarity so important for employee engagement, in your opinion?
Okay. It's the why. We all need a little bit of a why. Otherwise, we'd go into work and we'd kind of drift aimlessly. There's got to be a purpose, and I think clarity brings that. If we have a why from a colleague perspective, we at British Cycling want people to be really involved in what we're doing. We want to feel that what they do is contributing to their own success and to the organisation's success. So having a really clear message that everybody buys into and feels part of is massively, massively important. It comes back to, why do we come to work? I want to go to work because I feel that I can make a change and that I've got a purpose and that the organisation I work for believes in me and listens to me. And that's probably the other side of it, that communication and that clarity works both ways. It's not just our CEO and our executive leadership team and our managers talking down. It's got to be creating environments for our colleagues to talk up. And, we do a lot of work, through engagement surveys, through listening groups, we want through strategy development. We want everybody involved. We want everybody to have a say. And that doesn't mean that our exec team don't sometimes have to make decisions, difficult, good or bad. They are empowered to do that. But where we can, we will do as much collectively as we possibly can and use that collective voice. And again, you will find that people will stick with you a lot longer if they feel they're participating and not just being done to. And I think clarity done well will bring that.
Yeah, I love that. I think clarity for me, if every single day, if we just thought about all of the questions that we get asked, like think about all the amount of questions that you have in your mind all day, every single day. In your work, what questions have you got? It's typically why we're doing that. What's that for? What's the purpose? We're constantly being asked those questions. And even in situations where we walk into a room, imagine we're walking into this room, it's like, don't go through this door. Immediately you're going to want to go through the door. Why? What's behind it? Where will it lead us? And because we're curious, our minds are just constantly seeking information and security, and curiosity is brilliant. So to be as open and honest as possible is so important, because not only will it soothe that curiosity, you'll be able to get so much better out of the person that you're with or the group of people that you're with, because they'll know what's going on and they'll think, right, okay, I know the parameters now, I'm gonna either try and bust through them because we can do better. So you think, great, I've got a motivated individual, I've got somebody that's got passion, we're gonna go somewhere. But also you've got people that aren't constantly questioning or trying to look past what you're saying, because everything, you've just laid everything out on the table. So clarity is so critical, but it starts with the shared vision, because not the amount of people that come into an organisation, that definitely come into the football club, okay, so where are we going? What's our mission? Like, what's the vision? What are our values? And you think, God, you really care, like you really want to dial into something. So just being open and honest and saying, well, just have a read, ask me any questions, is so empowering to you, but also them as well.
Amazing, thank you. That you're both so right. Having that vision is so incredibly important, and I see that when I look at the data that we get through the Happiness Index, and people having that vision, knowing what they're working towards, not just as a common goal for the company, but also on an individual level. Sometimes we have people not being clear on their job requirements, and that is also so important, because if you don't know what you're doing on a day-to-day basis and what you're working towards, what your objectives are within your role, how can you help to achieve those common objectives that are company wide. So I completely agree with everything that you have both said. My next question is, do you have any communications, celebrations or mishaps to share?
Richard has a banger.
Shall I go first? I'll do both. A positive, a celebration. So we're on our third CEO in 18 months. It's been a period of relative instability, which can make people quite nervous. And actually our new CEO, John Dunn, well, I say new, I think he's been there nearly a year now, actually, time flies. But something that he's really harnessed is around communication and putting himself, making himself available and actually really building trust in him and what we're trying to do really quickly. So we've always had a kind of all-staff call. He's really kind of harnessed that and we're prepared to kind of share information with people that perhaps we wouldn't have done before, which I think is great because it is about trust. The men and the women's tour, for instance, which anyone that pays attention to cycling we've taken over, which is great. But as an organisation, we knew about that a couple of weeks before that was going to the press, and that was embargoed information. But he's been prepared to say, look, I want to tell you where we're going. I trust you to keep that information confidential, and people have really bought into that. That's a positive. The clangor. So I think I really should preface this by saying we have an extraordinarily good comms team who are very small and do a huge amount of work. But words are very important. So it was around the Queen's funeral. And obviously we're a national governing body, we're funded. So government expect us to put out statements and so on. And it was around what events should and shouldn't be happening around the Queen's funeral. And the press release that we put out should have been, and what it was meant to say, or what we intended to say, was that cycling events, racing, those kind of activities on the day of the Queen's funeral shouldn't happen. Lots of sporting events paused, and that's what we were trying to say. It may have been construed that what we actually said was you're not allowed to cycle a bike full stop on the day of the Queen's funeral, which as you would imagine, with members and various people who picked that up, didn't go down particularly well. We changed the messaging quite quickly when it was pointed out to us that that's what might be what we were suggesting. So, it happens, and it was words. It was not the intention, but sometimes these things happen, and all you can do is go, sorry, we made a mess of that, and we correct it. We own it and we correct it. There you go.
I think that's just brilliant. There's been so many different celebrations and clangers. Not necessarily. There is so. If any of you are working in sport, then you'll know the rigour that goes on in comms, and the amount of process that happens. And I think why sometimes that can be so successful is because of the diverse views of people that get to see it before anything goes out, and having as many different people around the table looking at what it is that you are about to say or do before it goes anywhere is really important. There was, in my previous organisation, I was the head of inclusion, and we were putting something out for International Women's Day, and we just didn't have that diverse lens through it, and some of the stuff that luckily it was only internal just really wasn't great, because the diversity wasn't around the table. So you get groupthink. So you only get the people that think the same going, yeah, that's great, and it's like, well, tell me what we're missing, and that question wasn't asked. So I think in some of the clangers can be the biggest learnings as well.
Completely agree, thank you both. So my next question is, what are some of the key enablement tools used in your organisation?
Do you want to take this one first, Gemma?
What I will say is we are particularly great at development, at people development. There is a huge amount of resource that goes into specialist roles, but also people that want to get into specialist roles as well. It's actually really inspiring. I've never, and I am part of the military as well, the British Army. Outside of the Army, this has probably been the first environment that I've seen the level of investment in people to the degree that it is at. It's incredible, the amount of time that is spent asking the questions of what is it, where are you going, where do you want to be, how can we support you, and the amount of training agreements that we've got with our team is incredible. So for personal development, it's incredible. For professional development, it's also incredible. So I think we do that particularly well.
Cool, thank you. I think I'm going to say, being honest again, this is the nut we're trying to crack around kind of enablement at the moment. It's an area we scored quite low in, and we knew we would. So we're kind of quite granular. There are a lot of inefficiencies at British Cycling which chew up people's time and make their workload much harder than it should be. Without getting into sort of real detail, people having to create spreadsheets to back up the tech that we have because the tech doesn't talk to another piece of tech, and it just eats time. It eats time and it increases workload. So we're kind of really looking at the moment at the tools that we deploy and the tools that we give our colleagues to be able to do their jobs so they can do them smoothly and quickly and not have to find several workarounds. A really simple one, our intranet is a mess. It's meant to be the store where you get all of the information that you need. Anything you need should be there. But you can spend an hour looking for something and then you give up. You do, because who has the time? So we've been doing a lot of work on kind of efficiencies, and I mean we identified about 260 individual processes where people were having to do something manual that they didn't really need to do, and so we've really just started stripping those away. And actually, it sounds really small. But it isn't, and the impact it's had on people and how they feel about it, because all of a sudden you've got a bit more time. People feel a bit more free. I know it's really daft, but it works, and people have really responded well to it. So ours is there's a lot we need to unpack around kind of the tools and around enablement, and we are. We know it's a journey, and it's a journey we've really started in the last sort of 6 to 9 months. There we go.
I don't think that's daft at all. It's surprising through the data that we get. Sometimes it will be the most basic of things. So, for example, I had a retail client and the toilets were too far away because they were in Westfield. I mean, there's not much that you can do about that. You can't move the toilets closer, but it's surprising the data and the information that we get. And it's something so simple sometimes that you can change, and it has the biggest impact on all of your employees. So it's not daft. It's, even though there's 260 of them, I think you said, that's a lot, but that will make such a big difference to how efficient people can be within their role. So my next question is, do you have any advice on finding the balance between employee workload and resource budget?
The Holy Grail, right? I found a needle in a haystack once. I think it's a real challenge. I'll speak for ourselves. We live in a world where we are trying to do more with ever decreasing budgets. And that's just the reality, and it is hard. I think uniquely to us at British Cycling, and what we're trying to do, and again, not surprising, it was an area we scored low on. We in the past, we're so many different things to so many people. That's what I'm trying to say, from people who identify with the on-field success, but we go all the way down to getting girls and boys on a bike in a park, to our club network. We're a membership organisation, we're a government-funded organisation, we are pulled in lots of different directions, and I think in the past we have tried to do far too much. and the byproduct of that is that just increases everybody's workload until people's heads explode. That's just what happens, because it's, we need to do this and this and this and this. You can't. There's a finite amount of energy and emotional energy that people have. So our strategies work in Olympic cycles. So we're just working on what we're calling Project Purpose, which will be our strategy for post Paris and then to LA 28. And what we are looking at within that is, let's nail who we actually are. Let's nail what we should do and what we should influence, because they're two very different things. We have weight, at a governmental level, but it doesn't mean we have to do everything. We can't. We need to be really strategic and clever about the battles that we pick and the work we deploy, and that may be looking at other organisations we can partner with, etc. There's lots we can do. So there's a huge amount of work on that, which does involve everybody. Again, our strategy kind of is built from the bottom up where we can, which will hopefully then bring that kind of clarity and a bit more enablement, and we'll be a bit more specific about what we can do. And the other thing, if my boss and I get our way, we'd like to throw role profiles in the bin as well, quite frankly. You're handed this bit of paper, it generally becomes meaningless after about a week of doing your job. Why do we need a list? If you can crack teamwork and you've got a good vision and know who you are, nobody needs 10 bullet points to tell them what they should be doing on a daily basis. That one might be a tougher nut to crack.
Yeah, I'll be completely honest, there is no balance or there is no words of wisdom for me on workload and resource budget at all. Generally speaking, that is something that we are genuinely working through at the moment. Anybody that is in football knows that you work 1 million hours a day and you're there way longer than probably what you should be or could be, but you do it because you love it. And that doesn't mean it's right, it's just been the way that it has been. We're going on a huge journey as a HR department to support the awareness and the understanding. So going back to the 3 things about the high performing team at the start, really the understanding, the awareness of how many hours is okay and what's not okay, and when are you taking your holidays, when are you taking your toil, and then having the willingness from the team to actually do it, because sometimes you can share all of that information and just go, but I just want to be here, I just need to kind of be with the team, and it's like, no you don't, like it will be okay, but trying to help somebody do that is really difficult. So we certainly have no words of wisdom there. Unfortunately, if that's what you came for, I've got nothing.
Thank you, both.
Yeah.
My next question is, how do you approach collaboration within your business? Gemma, do you want to go first?
I mean, because just due to the nature, we're quite a small, intricate organisation across 3 sites, and they're all in Leicestershire. That by default, I've come from a national company that has 60 odd locations across the country with UK holidays. That is automatically a lot easier because people cross paths all the time. I think in COVID, and I think that although it feels like forever ago, there is still this hangover in silo working, and I don't know whether anybody else is still experiencing that or feeling it, but there is this, and and I know that Anna will touch on this a little bit later on, is that it's the mindset. I will work on my task, I will keep myself kind of in this bubble because it feels safe, and there is still that. So having times where it's almost forced collaboration, or times where you're manipulating situations so people are working together, but not just working on tasks, they're working on who are we as a team and what do we bring to the table and who are we really as people. I can only speak for me, but it would be great to hear from any of you. I don't think we spend enough time doing that. spending enough time being curious about, okay, so who are you really as an individual, not just who are you and what job do you do. Like, okay, well, you could do any job, but what motivates you to get out of bed in the morning, and how can I help you as a person, not just necessarily your role. So collaboration has different lenses, but for us, it's about manipulating those times where it's not just about task, which when you're in a project meeting can be really hard.
Cool, thank you, Gemma. I really like that. I sometimes speak to colleagues. I really like my job, but my gravestone is not going to read, "Here lies Richard Bridgewater. He was okay at HR." I'm not my job. And nobody is. It's just it's a label, and that really trying to find out who are you, and let's try and be human beings. I think is really important, and I agree. We don't necessarily do enough of it all of the time. In terms of where we go, it's a journey. Collaboration felt like a word that British Cycling, I've only been there 2.5 years, but sort of post-COVID, every collaboration seems to be this word that suddenly everyone was using, and it was, I think for a while at British Cycling, it was just a word. We must collaborate, but everyone just carried on working in what was quite a siloed way. We had 4 different unique directorates, from commercial to the sports team to participation to comms, marketing, and they didn't really. Also, there was huge amounts of crossover. It just wasn't happening. So we've really kind of started to try and break those structures down so that we have multifunctional teams that we become a bit more project focused, which relies on you drawing on expertise and people bringing together that way. We've got a huge kind of change program going on at the moment, and that is about identifying that work, those structures, but then also communicating it. We regularly brief everybody on where that program is, what we're working on. So it's not just about those that are in the projects. Everyone's well aware and has an opportunity to participate. There's work to be done, but we're breaking those silos and being a little bit cleverer and more strategic, and giving people the opportunity to come in and out of teams as needed is ongoing, but seems to be starting to turn the ship.
That's amazing. At THI, we did decide that we were going to have a flat structure, and so anybody in any team can get involved in projects in other teams, and that made such a difference as we were growing, because obviously being the first employee I was just doing so many things just because I was interested, and as we got bigger I missed that, and I wanted to be involved in other things, and then having the opportunity to do that again I think really helped, because people do have different interests. They might have different experience that they can bring to a project that's happening within another team, so I think that's really important. My next question is, what's next in your employee engagement journey?
Okay, well, look, I couldn't get off the stage without this bit. So we started using the happiness index in December time. So we launched our first culture survey in December. Response rate of 98%. Haven't forgotten about lunch. Which we were really obviously 98% was amazing. And that actually, is really coming to show that everybody at British Cycling really wants to have a say. They enjoy and appreciate that they can put forward their views in what we hope is a kind of trusted environment. So, that in and of itself was great. But it also showed us there's a huge amount of work to do. So a few things that we've done and are doing, we made a commitment when we launched the survey that from survey launch to having an organisational action plan will be done within 90 days with regular communication along the way, and we've done that. So there are some things that we need to work on culturally as an organisation, but there's also then we allowed that to go down to kind of directorate and team level, because sport's really interesting. Cycling, we have about 4 different cultures because we do so much. So we have an overarching sort of values and behaviour framework, so that our conversations with each other, whoever I'm talking to, whatever department, whatever their goals are, should feel the same. It should be authentic, and we should treat each other as we wish to be treated, but understanding operationally, we've got about 4 different businesses with 4 really different focuses, and they have their own drives as well. So we've got kind of, overall culture plan, departmental culture plan. From that came sort of the new values and behaviours. So we've got a lot of work still to do embedding those. We're starting to look at making sure they come into all of our recruitment, so become more values based around recruitment. They will form part of our kind of performance management and our development objectives as well. So, something British Cycling's not been very good at, back to clarity, is that purpose, that clarity. So, we're asking people to think about objectives that not just feed into where we're trying to go as an organisation now, but actually into our values and behaviours. So what values, what behaviours will I and others need to harness to be able to deliver? And that will really, we hope, sort of help embed those. And then also looking at kind of onboarding and offboarding as well. As I said, we've got a really good, really engaged, as you find in sport, kind of core of colleagues who want to succeed. But it'd be interesting to know, we know along that journey at the beginning, at the end, people's emotions and feelings change, and trying to bring in more data and more data points to look at what that curve or otherwise might be, I think will be really important to help us kind of deploy a few more initiatives. There we go.
Yeah, I think it's so similar, the similarities between our two organisations. We launched our vision and values last year, which was led by our CEO, who is an incredible woman, and our directors. We spent a long time doing workshops with the team, kind of understanding what does this mean now to your role. We have incredible owners who are just at the heart of everything that we do, and enable a hell of a lot of empathy, heart and humility through the entire organisation. That is felt in every single one of our team members. No matter who you spoke to, you would probably get something very, very similar. So we're spending more time working through our values. We've got leadership behaviours, which will be rolled through the leadership programme, which will start as we're coming out of season end. Fingers crossed, either QPR do us a favour on Friday, or when we head up to Preston, we've got that win. But to rebound, hopefully the way that we will, we know that we will need to create leaders that are even more resilient, are ready to very quickly innovate and start to move the club forward. So we have a lot of work to do with our leaders, and it'll be a pleasure to do that. And then we'll continue with our engagement survey. We know we can get a lot better. There are areas that we're working on. Every single department is in their action planning phase right now. So they're having team meetings. We've got our operations team that are doing that right now today with all of their leaders. So what we're trying to create is this culture of more clarity, constant communication. One of the things that we're trying to instill is over-communicate by a factor of 10. Even if you think that you have told somebody, I'm telling you now, they will tell you they haven't heard you. And you could just talk to people in the face. So keep telling them, keep communicating, because we will embark on the cultural change that we're after, and that is a full embed of the values and vision, which is exciting.
I love hearing about what everyone's doing to move forward, so that's all really exciting. Thank you both so much. I'm not sure how we're doing for time. I'm going to open it up to questions. 5 minutes. Are there any questions? Got one over here.
I can shout if you like.
I'm coming.
God, it's on. Do you want it? We'll sing. No. I've written it. Can you hear me? You just need to hold it super close.
Really? Ooh,
Like karaoke vibes.
Honestly, you don't know where you're going with that. It's quite, Richard, for you, question. When you were talking about the 280 improvements that you identified, and it started a thought process in my head that one of the reasons that those kinds of things happen is because people are kind of stuck in a comfort zone of doing things that way, and it's not right but it's okay, sort of thing. So my question is, how have you got people on board to have a real appetite to begin to embed the changes that you're making, or even more so get involved in highlighting where they see improvements and feel safe talking about it?
Yeah, sure. It was really my journey into British cycling, and actually it's kind of works. It's maybe a little bit unique. Is I started 2.5 years ago. The entire HR department before me had left, so my colleague Marion, who's here, had been there about 3 months. I arrived, and my boss, the HR director, arrived about 3 months later, which created, had to work fast to understand British cycling and didn't have that checkpoint. But actually, it allowed us to kind of draw a really clear line and say, this is who we are. And right from the beginning, kind of trying to build trust, being available. The old HR team had sat in a cupboard. We moved out onto the floor, just so people knew who we were, first of all, and that we were, as Gemma kind of said, we were human beings, not just the strange people that sat in a cupboard that you went to talk to if, something bad had happened, because that's the piece of my job I enjoy the least. If I'm doing my job well, there shouldn't be a lot of that going on. So there was people sort of starting to trust and more likely to share, and sort of setting up groups that colleagues could feed into and use their voice was really, really important in that. The efficiencies it's been a slam dunk because people were so frustrated. As I said, you're having to do extra work because the system that we've given you doesn't do the job properly. People have been chomping at the bit for that change, and it was just creating the time and space. And again, we have literally went, this is the work that we're doing. If it bothers you, come and talk to us. Doesn't matter how big it is, how small it is, if we can fix it, we will. And people weren't shy in coming forward to share that information. And then it's just been about, okay, what grouping it together? Does it all come under emails? Does it come under our intranet? Does it come under bigger pieces of tech? And a simple one, WhatsApp connectivity in the building. Because we have coaches over there and their boss might be there, and people all over the world, and just even improving that, it's made a big difference. So but it started with, it's okay to express your voice, it's okay to say I don't like this, there isn't a consequence to that, we want to hear it. I hope that sort of answered the question. Sometimes I just say words and hope for the best.
Do we have any other questions? Does any... Oh, Matt's go on.
I've got a question. Richard, Gemma, thanks for bringing back the phrase, it's a banger as well.
I'll bring that classics.
Richard, I noticed when you said, we talked about collaboration,
Mm-hmm.
you said it was a word and everyone said let's collaborate, and then no one did, and then we did something.
Yeah.
I noticed there were loads of people in the room were like smiling and nodding like they've been through that.
Yeah.
Can you just touch on what you did to move it from a word to actually people collaborating?
Yeah, sure. It was all around how we looked at projects, and again, it was breaking down those silos, Matt, and it was recognising that to do a piece of work requires lots of different skills. So actually we had to force it to begin with. We created project groups, so there's a piece of work that needed to be deployed, and initially it was, okay, we need some skills from over there, and with that person we know would be really good. So actually there was a degree of sort of the management teams almost having to create that environment to kind of get people used to it. And of course what that does is people work together that wouldn't normally. They hopefully have a good experience. Something that goes and gets delivered, and all the while they're talking to their teams and the directorate that they worked in about what they've been doing, and it starts to carry a bit of momentum. Now again, we're a long way from having that completely nailed, but it was recognising it was just a word, and then sometimes you have to kind of engineer a little bit of change, and so we made people collaborate rather than them just talk about it until they started enjoying it, and now they do, and so they will. It was quite artificial, but sometimes you just got to nudge.
Thank you.
Oh, one here.
Hello, back again. But a question probably to both of you. So we're looking around the topic of clarity and enablement. Richard, you talked about, just stuck in my mind, about doing away with role profiles. And Gemma, you talked about getting to know the human and understanding them on that level to enable them in their job. So if you're coming away from role profiles, what does that look like in reality? What else do we have when we think about clarity, I suppose?
This is, right, just to be clear, this is very conceptual at the moment. It's not a we are, it's something that my boss and I often talk about. So what would that look like? So I guess if I apply it to myself, I work in HR. That's my job. I was talking to Gemma and others before. In saying that, I cannot remember a day where I've been going into work thinking, today I need to do X and Y, and it actually happened. Because you get to work, and particularly in the kind of work we do, you're going to get that email or a phone call or be pulled into a meeting or whatever it might be. So actually those bullet points are meaningless. It doesn't mean that I don't have goals and objectives. It doesn't mean that I don't work within that big field of HR. That's what I do. But I think as people grow in a role, and I think what you would find if someone's very new and it's their start of their career, perhaps it's a bit like coaching, you perhaps need to be a little bit more directive. But as you kind of start maturing into your role, I know what those bullet points are. I don't need them written down. What I perhaps need is a little bit more freedom to also then get involved in other parts of the business, or to be able to go, that's an interesting project, I think I could have some value there. I think there's a danger with role profiles that people can go, that's me, that's my life, that's all I'm going to do. And I think if we can break that down a little bit, I'm always going to work in HR, and there are things that I need to do. But I think if we can give people the opportunity to explore and move away from that, that would be good. Whether we will convince leaders that will happen, I do not know. I'll maybe come back in a couple of years and let you know.
I think we're about out of time. It's not picking up your voice.
Doesn't need to. But thank you so much. Please, round of applause for our brilliant